In Mark 14, we find Jesus on the verge of being arrested, and we know that he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane, and there he prays. He takes his disciples with him, and in his time in the garden, he reveals to us how we can approach those times in our lives that are the most difficult, times in which we might be tempted to give in or to do something differently. Jesus, as he is in the garden, reveals to us some things that we can be about when we find ourselves in difficult situations. The first thing we see very clearly here is that Jesus tells them that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Sometimes we are exhausted, sometimes we're tired, and sometimes we get caught up in things instead of are focusing in on what it means to be in a time of prayer. But Jesus reveals to us is that when we are tempted, when we are finding our struggles, we need to pray. We need to take time to be alone with God. The second thing we see that Jesus reveals to us in his time in Gethsemane is this, that he has some trusted friends with him. Sometimes when we're walking through a difficult time, we need to rely on our trusted friends. We need to ask people that we care about and people who care about us to be with us, to walk with us through the struggle. Even when we might be in a situation where we're tempted to do something that isn't what God would call us to do. Maybe we need to rely on our friends to help us walk through those moments. And then the final thing that we need to see, and Jesus reveals this when he decides that as he's praying, he really focuses his attention on knowing that he's doing what God has called him to do. It's a revelation to us that there are times in our lives when we're tempted or when we're struggling that we need to just put our focus on God. What is it that God is speaking to us, and what is it he is calling us to do? Jesus' time in the Garden of Gethsemane models for us a way that we can approach temptation and a way we can just approach the struggles of life. Because Jesus was in a moment of struggle. He knew what it would cost him in the days ahead. But he also knew that it was part of God's plan, and as the Son of God, he was willing to walk out that plan. Even in those moments, he teaches us yet again how we can walk out those times in our lives that are the most difficult.